Hello everybody, I want to welcome you to the YouTube channel for the AAAFL. Our first video is going to be on the 20 things that make us different as a league. First thing that we're going to be doing a little differently is the league issued photo identification cards. Now we're going to be making these for each player and each coach, so this way they're properly badged on the sidelines. It makes things easier at the gate. We're going to use them for marketing purposes with sponsors. And also it will provide for a 2-layer verification system for book checks. Speaking of book checks, that's number 2. We're going to be issuing the league book checks, or the books for the league ourselves. So each team will get a binder that is separated and organized by each week. They'll have the entire roster for each opponent throughout the season. And it'll be given to them before the season when the rosters are locked, so there's no opportunity to add people after the fact. Along with those books, they will be receiving a custom stamp per team as well, so this way that they can verify at the end of the season that it was in fact the other team that made the book check. On top of that, we are going to be doing the book checks ourselves if a board member is at one of the games. So there is 8 members of the executive board, and we are could be at all of the games or a couple of the games each week. If there is a board member there, they will be the ones to do the book check. And we can also do sideline spot checks as well during the game. So we're going to make sure we stay on top of that. I have a whole list of 20 here that's going to be on the website. So I'm kind of making a YouTube video here to kind of go over all the different things so I can attach it. This way you guys can see this in video form. And you can also go to the website and check it out yourselves. Next thing, number 3, is going to be the fact that we're going to be running 7 referee crews. We feel it's going to increase accuracy of called games. And we touched it on the podcast as well, but they prefer the 7-man mechanic over the 5-man mechanic. Now, we did work a deal with them, so this way that it makes it affordable for team owners. They're not going to have to come out of pocket over $600 for a game. We did work a deal, so essentially they get the 7th referee for free. Now, we also talked to the referee association about catering our rules to what they are most comfortable with. Now, we did that procedurally with how you affect and handle the referees, as well as logistically throughout the week of how we're going to handle referees. So they're going to get, each team will receive a email that has the crew that they're going to get. They're going to be able to start creating those interpersonal and professional relationships with the crew, so this way they know what they're getting themselves into, because different crews call games different ways. So they'll be able to know what they're getting themselves into, and Saturday mornings the league will be doing double checks to ensure each game has a crew. And we also have a backup crew on standby, so we should never have those kind of issues again. Number 5, verified statistics. So we do have a statistics committee, and I'm taking it upon myself to do a couple as well each week. We are going to verify all the statistics that are put into the site, so this way they actually mean something. Too many times at every league, there's teams that don't put it in, and then the ones that do put it in aren't very accurate. So we're going to be checking on that and requiring it as well as the film. So that's number 6, is we do require film submission from each team. We are making accounts for every team on watchgamefilm.com. It is a web hosting service that the league can utilize in order to share film with each other and make sure that each player has access to film. So that's something that's pretty important that we're doing going forward. Number 7 is our professional live broadcasted championship game. So we are going to actually have a professional crew come out and do graphic overlays with the score and time and ticker with multiple camera angles and commentators, and actually do a live broadcast of the game simulcast on our Facebook page as well as YouTube, and also on an app for Roku devices and smart TVs. So you'll be able to actually watch the game anywhere. Our champions are not going to receive a random $2,000 check when they have to order $6,000 worth of rings at that point. The league is going to provide all the players and staff members of that team rings, championship rings, as part of a championship ceremony and a banquet in their honor in their hometown. So the league's going to really put on for our champions, show them a really good night, get them fed, put together a video for them for their season, present the rings to them. It's going to be a really good night. Now, on top of that, we're also doing things differently with All-Stars. So number 9 is our AUG League Honors. We're not doing an All-Star game. We feel it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time, and it's also a waste of money. There's no use spending several $1,000s to go buy uniforms for players to play a single game in. That's not a very good game. Most people don't show up. When they do, you have a crappy 2-hour practice where you guys aren't really working together very well, and then you play a really crappy game because you have no chemistry together. Hardly anyone shows up to watch it. It just doesn't make any sense to continue to beat our heads against the wall about doing that when we could do something a little better. So what we're going to do instead is okay, let me back up here a second. So instead of it being like 40 to 50 players per conference and 80 to 100 players that are all-stars, we're going to make it a little bit more exclusive. So it's going to be 50 players across the entire league, evenly delineated between their position groups. So this way there will be 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, like 7 receivers, like each position group, depending upon how many of them are on the field. There's going to be how many, like 8 offensive linemen, it's going to be like that. And they're going to get free admission to the championship game. They're going to get recognized at halftime, where they also will be presented an individualized all-league ring. That's going to have the league on the front, their team name or the team logo with their position number and name on one side, and then the statistics that they had for the season on the other. I think that's going to be something really special. That's going to mean a whole lot more to players than an all-star jersey and a crappy 2-hour game. So that's something that we're doing different. Number 10, some people won't like, but I think it's something that's necessary, is we're doing an 8-week regular season. We feel that 10-game seasons aren't really accomplished very often, and it's because it's a little unreasonable and outside the purview of amateur organizations as they currently stand. Would we like to get to 10 games, maybe even 12 games in the future? Absolutely, but we have to start here first, in my opinion, establish ourselves, ensure that all of our teams are producing, are profitable, and ensure that we're all building our brands the right way before we add on additional expenses. So I believe that this is going to help for player safety concerns with injuries. This is going to make the season more competitive because there won't be those additional weeks where the seating is already set. I believe it's going to help us schedule-wise because it's going to help us avoid the Easter and Mother's Day weekends. So that's going to help as well. It's also going to decrease overhead expenses for owners, which means less teams will fold and we'll have less forfeits. It's also perfectly reasonable if you're 2-3 going into week 5 and you lose a game, hey, you only have 2 left. It's not as bad as thinking, oh no, I have a whole nother month of this. I'm already out of it. And that's when a lot of teams end up folding. So we're hoping that this helps on 3 or 4 different fronts, and we feel it's necessary right now. Number 11 is a completely unattached, unbiased, and unaffiliated executive board of directors. There's 8 of us, and absolutely none of us are associated with any team. We are completely unattached. So that's something that's very unique. I'm not sure if it's been done before, but that's one of the main principles that we're standing behind ourselves. Number 12 is a league field. So we have a field at the East Lake Sports Complex that we used as the Florida War Eagles, and we retained those fields. We plan on using those fields in emergency purposes. So if a field, gets flooded, something happens with security or the scheduling issue, we have a field that we can use as a backup for teams so the games can still get played. We'll also be doing the Commissioner's Kickoff Classic at that field. Number 13 is set in place bylaws. Now, some owners aren't going to like that at first until they think about it and realize most of these leagues, you never know what you're getting yourself into. Some rules you may like when you join will be gone. Some rules that you want to implement that you're told that you have a bunch of backing for won't get voted in. Sometimes it'll get voted in unanimously, and a couple months later they'll pretend like it never even got voted on. So there's a lot of things that happen in that regard where it creates confusion It's really hard for teams and organizations and leagues to tell teams what they're going to be doing and what they can afford, what they can't afford, because everything's up in the air. So that's one thing that we're going to do a little different is our bylaws, our handbook, the way we run things is set in stone. Nothing changes. Our off-season meeting is a presentation of what we're doing, not a meeting in order to change things. Now, that being said, we pride ourselves on being open-minded and changing things and have put together a player advocacy committee and a competition committee to ensure at the end of the season, once we have spent a full season under these rules and we're more informed, we then will make decisions at the end of the season meeting and luncheon at Championship Saturday to make changes going forward. So that's the way we want to run it. Most owners aren't going to like the sound of it at first, but once they think about it a little bit, it's the right way to do things, in my opinion. Now, number 14, moving right along here, we have a 3-stage appeal process for everything. So one thing I want to touch on is our board of directors makes decisions based on their purview. So for instance, the vice president is in charge of the rules. They're supposed to be the guru of the rules and regulations of the league. So if something were to happen that is a violation of that, he would make a ruling on it. And if someone disagreed, one of the owners, they can make a motion to appeal. As long as they have a second, it goes to a vote. The people who are immediately involved in that vote do not have one, and not a single person of the executive board of directors has a vote. The owners are the ones who decided at that point, and it goes by a majority of 50%. Now, there's a third stage in that. So let's say it doesn't carry. Only half of the teams agree. It has to be greater than 50%. They can make a motion, as long as it's seconded at that point, to go to a third-party arbitrator, where they will have 24 hours to submit all the evidence they can and 5 minutes with the arbitrator for a third-party person who is not affiliated with our league, our teams, anything like that, to make a final verdict as part of a third stage in an appeal process. So we have everything set up to 1, where the board members can't influence decisions. 2, the power is in the hands of the owners, and the people who are directly involved don't have a vote. And 3, you can appeal the appeal by going to an objective third-party arbitrator. So that's something that we really believe in. We built that into every single decision. If the commissioner makes a decision on discipline, it's the same appeal process. If there's a decision made about rostering, there's the same 3-step appeal process. It's simple, it's succinct, everybody knows exactly what to expect, and it's fair. That's the important part. Next thing we're doing differently, number 15, is the Player Advocacy Committee. So this is something that means a lot to me, personally, is the Player Advocacy Committee. A lot of times there's players who don't feel heard. There's teams that make rules that make a lot of sense to them. Doesn't make any sense to a player. There's a lot of times that we put regulations in as a league that we feel is going to send us in a certain direction, but players don't like it. In fact, some of them hate it and don't want to play because of it. But we never find that out as a league. Most leagues don't, because they don't have a voice really outside of going on Facebook and going crazy and then people just getting their feelings. So we have a committee that we're putting in place with a third party, retired football players that play in the semi-pro. We're going to have a couple of those, and also some players who play in the league as well, to put together a committee that is invited to all of our board meetings to act as the voice of the players. Now, they collectively will have a single vote, so they need to work together. I'm not going to give 5 votes to players and then each owner only gets 1. So they will have a collective single vote, and they will be invited to all of our board meetings to act as the voice of the players. So that's important too for information delineation. There's no need to hide anything from the players or the coaches or the teams or the organizations. Our very, very first core value, what means more to me than anything, is transparency. So that's something that really means a lot to us. We're going to go forward with that. That is actually number 16, is the transparency. No other league does it. No other league's going to ever do it the way we're going to do it. There's no reason to hide anything. We have nothing to hide. I invite you to look at our books. I invite you to look at our budget. I invite you to scope through all of our rules. If there's something that's not right, I want to know so I can fix it. So this way we can go forward and we don't have that issue anymore. So please comb through everything that we have. Make sure that it's all copacetic. If something's out of place, I want to know. So that's where that's coming from. Number 17 is a league merchandise store. Now, we noticed as a team ourselves, merchandising was very difficult to do because you had to buy in bulk. It's not really in the budget to go buy 500 t-shirts, so you could try to hopefully sell 200 of them throughout a season or two. So we have built in with Squad Locker on our league website an avenue for each team to sell apparel to their fans, friends, and family. They're going to end up getting 15% of whatever those sales are sent as a check directly to the owner. So essentially, all they have to do is give me a logo, and I'm going to make that happen for them. They don't have to set it up. They don't have to do anything, but give me a logo and collect a check. That's something that we provide as a league to help try to raise money for our teams. We're not trying to take their league fees. We want to also provide for them as well. That also leads into the next thing. Number 18 is a league ran fundraising campaign that we're going to do in November. It's called Snap Raise. Now, the way that works, it's a very simple program. A lot of high schools around here use it, and they use it very, very effectively. I've seen several campaigns that was shown to me, as well as one of our board of directors actually is a high school coach, and they just finished it as well. They had 33 players participate and made over $4,000 as a team. Now, all they do basically is they create a page for each team. They take a couple of snippets of video and images, and they create a page like a GoFundMe page almost. And then they ask each player to provide a list of emails, as many as they can. Mom, dad, cousin, aunt, uncle, brother, friend, college roommate, whatever. As many as you can. And then they're going to send them over 28 days 4 separate emails that tells a story that's connected to a page. It's really cool how the way they have it all set up. And all they ask for is $20 each. Now, every one of these campaigns I've seen with the participation over 30 has raised at least $3,000. If we can provide a fundraiser for these teams, for them to make more money than we're charging them to be a member of the league, that's unheard of, guys. So that's something else that we're trying to do to try to create incomes for our members as well. We're not just trying to take from them, we're trying to provide them with services. Another thing that makes us a little unique, number 20, I know I've gone over quite a few, but like I said, we are very unique, is our league presentation in the off season. It's going to be a presentation of what we're about as a league. It's going to be training. We're going to have a think tank session. It's going to be very nice. It's in Tampa. We have a room big enough for over 100 people. The first half of it's going to be set up in a classroom type setting, so this way owners can sit down with their laptops and pens and paper. We'll provide food and water that you can take at any time throughout the luncheon. And the whole back of the room is going to be set up in a theater style, so coaches and players can come. I don't care if you are the commissioner of the other leagues. Come on by. We can all benefit from it. I want us to work together. I've told guys before, I've said it a million times, my goal is to better amateur football. I don't care if my goals don't ever get there. I don't care if this league never happens. If by doing what we're doing now, we increase the standards enough to help get those other leagues where they need to be, mission accomplished. If they take some of our ideas and implement them in them, great. The sport just got better. That's the way we're looking at things, and that's how you know that we're not in this for anything other than trying to make this what it could be and not what it has become. That's super important to me, guys. That's just 20 things. That's not everything. I'm not even mentioning a few things like, for instance, our head coaches has to be heads up certified. Each one of our coaches, there's a link on our website specifically for it. They'll be training on it for each of the teams. They have to go get tested to make sure that they're certified for fitting, concussion, hydration, and proper tackling techniques, modern day tackling techniques. So they don't have to implement them. We're not going to do that, but we want to make sure there is someone on each staff that is trained that can find concussions. Even if it's just one person or two people that know what to look for. Maybe that 3-minute video they watched in the middle of June or July helps some player down the road. I mean, it all adds up. That's something else that we're doing that's going to be a little bit different. No one else does that. We're also doing a family advocacy program for wives and family members of the players and coaches too. So there's a lot of things that we're planning on doing. Those are just kind of the 20 that we wanted to highlight as part of our first official video on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the What's Difference page on the webpage, so you'll be able to get an early look at the 20 different things that's different about the AAAFL.